WBCB presents Pro Wrestling Weekly.
Enough is enough, and it's time for a change!
I can't believe I'm putting my voice to this.
Call in with a question or comment at 215-949-3232 or 888-922-2149.
Thank you for your irrelevant opinion.
And now, here's your host of Pro Wrestling Weekly, Fearon.
The first thing you need to do is to tell these people to shut up if you want to hear what I gotta say. I'm a broadcast journalist. I have a right to my opinion.
Oh, son of a...
I am the best on this microphone, in that ring, even in commentary.
There's the sound of the bell, and we are set to go. This is Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com. Fearon here with you, flying solo today. Lucas is down in Paulsboro doing that whole wrestling school thing.
I'm a celebrity now. That's right. I said it. I'm a celebrity.
Yeah, he's so proud of that, isn't he? He should be back next week. Now, I guess a little bit of a programming note, for lack of a better term. The calendar, of course, has changed over to September, and longtime listeners of the program know what that means. Yeah, that means for the next 9 weeks or so, we could be subject to show shortenings and preemptions and things of that nature because it is high school football season. And today is one of those days. We're scheduled to be on until 12:45 today as we've got Neshaminy and Montclair High School football coming your way here on WBCB. Sean Lerman will have the game for you coming up. But a lot to get into, and I guess the theme of the day, as far as everything going on in the world of wrestling, I think Wade Barrett said it best.
I'm afraid I've got some bad news!
Yeah, there's a litany of bad news just across the board. I mean, that's some of the top stories. We're going to get into all of them over the course of the 45 minutes we're here, but... a man who was shot at the WWE Performance Center this past Monday. I'll get into that story in a little bit. TNA's Bram arrested on domestic battery and false imprisonment charges. Seth Rollins' girlfriend, yeah, you remember her. She was fired by WWE this past week. The reason will definitely blow your mind on that. And Hulk Hogan's apology on Good Morning America. We're definitely going to get into that. But... I know, it's kind of hard to pick a top story out of everything, but I guess it would have to be Superfly Jimmy Snuka, charged with murder. That's right, Jimmy Superfly Snuka charged with third-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter for the death of his girlfriend, Nancy Argentino, back in 1983. That's right, Snuka was arrested on Tuesday morning, released on $100,000 bail. The case was given another look after sitting dormant for 30 years, and it was turned over to a grand jury, and... apparently there's implications for the, at least until recently, WWE Hall of Famer. More on that in a minute. Snuka was at a TV taping in Allentown, PA. This is going back to '83, and claimed that he returned to his hotel to find Argentino gasping for air. She died the next day of traumatic brain injuries and suffered more than 24 cuts. And Snuka has continued to deny any wrongdoing over the years, but there have been whispers for decades about this. It's kind of been a dark cloud that has hung over the career of Jimmy Superfly Snuka. I mean, probably as many whispers as there were about Pat Patterson's orientation for all those years. I mean, there were similar whispers in that regard, but that has obviously over the years come to more fruition. But in the case of Snuka, WWE, they gave a statement on the arrest saying, quote, WWE expresses its continued sympathy to the Argentino family for their loss. Ultimately, this legal matter will be decided by our judicial system. However, that didn't stop WWE from removing Snuka from the Hall of Fame listing on the WWE.com page. So, yeah, obviously, I know. You can go back and forth with it. WWE is just trying to wash their hands of another messy situation in professional wrestling before it snowballs into something bigger. And then you have the counter argument of, well, whatever happened to innocent until proven guilty. I guess wrestling has a different set of rules. I don't know. It's a tough spot for WWE. They figure by distancing themselves from the situation, and if it turns out he's found innocent, then they can welcome him back with open arms. Okay. That's not necessarily a bad thing. WWE telling the Allentown Morning Call that that Snuka's Legends contract has been suspended and that his image is being removed from the company's media platforms pending the outcome of the case. So it's almost, it's a suspension, essentially. And adding injury to insult, Snuka was in a wheelchair and hooked to a feeding tube when he surrendered to police at the Lehigh County Courthouse on Tuesday. Snuka's attorney saying, quote, "He is not in good shape physically or mentally. I'm not sure he realized what was going on. I'm not sure what his cognitive abilities are," end quote. Now, Snuka, of course, recovering from stomach cancer surgery that he had last month, and according to his attorney, is suffering from partial dementia caused by head injuries. I mean, Snuka is, I want to say he's in his early 70s at this point, maybe 72, something like that. You'd think I'd have that off the top of my head, but yeah, not a good situation for Superfly Jimmy Snuka. All right. After that, I already feel down. I've got about another 30 plus minutes to go here. I don't know how I'm gonna. All right. Well, here's something I've been kicking around, and you can certainly chime in either via the phones at 215-949-3232 or 888-922-2149. That's the toll-free number, as well as the Facebook fan page. But I'm kind of curious, what are your favorite Nitro moments and memories? The reason I'm asking that, yesterday marked 20 years since the debut of WCW Monday Nitro. That's right, September 4th, 1995, from the Mall of America in Minnesota. That was where Lex Luger famously jumped ship from the World Wrestling Federation over to WCW, and that kicked off the Monday Night Wars. Now, as far as personal favorites for me, you got to go back to September 14th, 1998, the reuniting of the Four Horsemen, which at that point I believe it was, I know Ric Flair was there, and obviously Arn Anderson and Benoit was there. I know, how dare I mention his name? Gasp. And I believe Dean Malenko was part of them at that point. And Flair came out and had some salty words for Eric Bischoff, who was trying to keep him off of television, but let him back for that one moment. And that's one of those things that just sticks out in my mind, where he just talks about how Bischoff had abuse of power and how he's a no-good son of a you-know-what, and went on to say, "Fire me, I'm already fired, fire me." It's just one of those things, as I said, that sticks out in my mind. Now, speaking of Bischoff, he commented on the anniversary of Nitro launching on Twitter. Or he commented on Twitter about the anniversary of Nitro's launching. Two different ways to say the same sentence. The second one sounded better, though. A follower had asked if it was bittersweet for the defunct company, and Bischoff tweeted, quote, "Not bittersweet at all. Grateful to have been part of a strategy that raised the business to new highs and changed it forever. It was a great moment in time. It's a pleasure to look back and see just how much Nitro changed the industry forever. We did a lot of things that had never been done before, created interest in a solid but stagnant genre." A few higher level words there. Thank goodness people are going back to school now, huh? There you go. I'm sure people are going, stagnant, what does that mean? I don't know. But I think one thing that they're spending too much time in their books and not enough time watching SmackDown, for example, as SmackDown ratings have reached historic lows. That's right. This past Thursday, SmackDown scored a historically low 1.42 rating, down from last week's 1.62. It almost ended up being the lowest rated first-run episode since moving to the Sci-Fi Network 5 years ago. In case you're curious, the 4th of July episode from last year scored a 1.37 rating. That's the lowest first-run episode. SmackDown's audience was just under 2 million viewers, a 10% decline from last week. Part of the problem? Well, this past Thursday was the opening night of the college football season, plus there was the final week of the preseason NFL games, which, again, that's the other thing of note with the turning of the calendar to September, is that usually means that not only are SmackDown's ratings going to go down, but so are Monday Night Raws because of some other thing that happens on Monday nights as well. Yeah, that's usually what happens. The product seems to be a little bit, I don't know about lackluster, but the product seems to be different, and usually the reason for the lower ratings is blamed, whether you want to call it accurate or not, on Monday Night Football, which, that's right, I think a week from this Monday, it'll be rearing its head again. And I have a hunch that, well, at least people here in this market, they'll be paying attention to that Monday Night Football game because the Eagles are going to be a part of it. And you can, of course, hear that game right here on 1490 WBCB. Shameless plug. Got to throw those in there. Make Merrill happy. Some things that aren't so happy, though, well, it's, I hate to use the word bittersweet since it was just used a little bit ago, but Hulk Hogan's apology on Good Morning America. That's right. In his first televised appearance since the story broke on his taped racist comments, we've gone over that ad nauseum, I know, Hulk Hogan was interviewed by ABC's Amy Robach. And Hogan talked about being suicidal at the time that he made the comments. Well, I guess if you're going to have some sort of a pick-me-up when you're feeling down, I guess a moment of intimacy is the best way to go about it. I don't know. That's some territory I probably shouldn't venture into. But Hogan went on to say he had no idea he was being taped, which is something he's maintained throughout and has been part of the lawsuit and all that, and was embarrassed by what he said and noted that, quote, just because a person makes a mistake, just don't throw them away because you don't throw good people away. If everybody at their lowest point was judged on one thing they said and all of a sudden your whole career was wiped out today because of something you said 10 or 20 years ago, it would be a sad world. People get better every day. People get better. It wasn't exactly 10 or 20 years ago. I mean, it was. I don't think that Booker T's career is ruined for what he, ironically enough, said about Hulk Hogan. Gosh, what was that? Spring Stampede 97, I think it is, something like that.
Let me tell you something, Gene Oken. You out here talking about a clique. The only clique you need to know about is the Harlem Heat and Sister Sherry. See, because what you dealing with here is the brotherhood. It's nonstop from this point on in WCW. We take what we want, and after we take Lex Luger and the Giant, we want the gold, sucker. Hulk Hogan, we coming for you.
Yeah, that. It's amazing how it all ties in and comes full circle, right? Anyway, WWE issued a statement to Hollywood Reporter on Monday after being asked if they intend to reinstate Hogan, and a spokesman responded, quote, at this time, the WWE remains steadfast in its decision. Now, the key words that stick out for me there, at this time. So I'm sure all the Hulkamaniacs out there are holding out hope that time will heal this particular wound and that you'll be seeing the yellow and red back in WWE at some point. How long, though? I guess, as they said earlier regarding the Snuka thing, that's left up to the judicial system. Now, Hogan, he's starting to make more of a public face now that a couple of months have passed since this all, or I guess a month and a half has passed since this all went down. Hogan responding to Bret Hart's heavily critical comments. That's right. He went to Twitter to respond to critical comments made by Bret Hart about him earlier this week. In a video, Hart strongly criticized Hogan for his heavily publicized past racist comments that surfaced in July. No shock there. However, the hitman took it a step further by suggesting that Hogan was, quote, probably glad that Rowdy Roddy Piper had died to draw attention away from the revelations. Yikes. Hogan's response, quote, the words about Roddy Piper's death were out of line. I'm praying for you, Bret Hart. Only love, my brother. Yeah. I'm kind of, not that I'm one to necessarily agree with Hogan, but in this case, yeah, I think Bret went a little too far. Now, if he had, I think Bret's partially right, but he probably worded it wrong. Well, not probably, he did word it wrong. If Hogan was thankful that the attention was drawn away from him because of Piper's passing, there might be some truth to that, but I don't think that he was glad that Piper died necessarily. I think he might have just been glad that there was a diversion, a wrestling media-related, or at least in this case, wrestling mainstream media-related diversion that kind of took a little bit of the heat off of them because so many people were mourning the passing of Roddy Piper from July 31st. That's just a guess, though. I don't know. All right, we still have quite a bit to get into. Mentioned the stories earlier regarding a man shot at the WWE Performance Center. We'll get to that on the other side. TNA's Bram arrested on domestic battery and false imprisonment. We'll get into that story. Seth Rollins' girlfriend fired by WWE. Got that as well. Plus, well, I got to tell you now, George's Cards and Collectibles, they continue to bring you the legends. In fact, just last week, TNA's Ethan Carter III was at George's interacting with fans, and he brought the heavyweight belt with him. Plus, a couple weeks ago, Ron Simmons and JBL were in the shop. Damn indeed. Stay tuned to Pro Wrestling Weekly to find out what's next in store for George's in terms of appearances. And in case you missed it, Sinomania has been indefinitely postponed due to the flight, hotel, and travel issues associated with the Pope's visit to Philadelphia later this month. 3 weeks away, I guess, is when all that's going down? 3 weekends from now? So that's not going on, but you can still check out George's 3 locations for all your sports and wrestling memorabilia needs, including their original store at 7755 New Falls Road in Fairless Hills, on the lower level of the Oxford Valley Mall next to the Sears Court, as well as in the Neshaminy Mall in the AMC Theater Wing. Now, for more information on upcoming signings, collectibles, and more, give George's a call at 215-943-2475 or go to georgescollectibles.com. We'll also take a look at the Facebook feedback. I see Yale's put a post up there over the course of earlier this week, and we'll also get into some responses on the Snuka thing. That's right, the Dudleys making their return. A few post SummerSlam reactions, for lack of a better term. Ross from the Minnesota Wrecking Crew with a hysterical meme on the Facebook fan page. You definitely want to check that out. Just because, it reflected SummerSlam as well. And Taker's, I'll just go check it out. I don't want to completely give it away. Anyway, we'll be back. This is Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com.
And now, more Pro Wrestling Weekly with your host, Fearon Derry.
Welcome back to Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com. Fearon Derry here with you, well, at least for the moment in studio, alongside Ted Efaw. He's, I know I'm putting him on the spot here, and he's gonna hate me for a while because of it. No. He hate me kind of like the Rod Smart's nickname from the XFL from back in 2001, which if you aren't familiar with the XFL, don't worry, you're not alone, because that's why it only lasted 1 year. I don't know. Do you remember that at all?
No. See, I thought, here we go. He's starting off with something I have no clue.
Not so, it makes for a fun story. That was when Vince McMahon, the owner of the WWE, decided to try to, I guess, compete with or take some of the viewership away from the National Football League. Okay. And he started the Extreme Football League, the XFL, that lasted 1 season, the 2001 season. It happened right after the Super Bowl was when the season started, and went probably about 10 weeks or so. And the ratings were strong initially, but by the time it ended, the ratings were just in the toilet, and Vince, I think, lost something along the lines of like $43 million. Wow.
Just a drop in the bucket for Vince.
True. He lost 4 times that trying to get his wife into the Senate.
That's right.
In 2 failed campaigns.
That's right.
When Vince McMahon ventures outside of the world of professional wrestling, it usually doesn't go well.
That's right.
Between
stick
the XFL,
with what he knows,
politics, going way back to, actually, when you were here at WBCB before, back in the early 90s, the World Bodybuilding Federation, the WBF, that lasted maybe about a season or 2 and probably cost Vince a good $15 million there in 1990s money.
That's right. But he runs a couple pay-per-views. He has it all.
Yeah, exactly. Right? He gets it right back. With the WWE Network, which actually the stocks have been on a bit of a roller coaster ride, but I think that's also because the majority of the stock market has been on a roller coaster ride. probably risen. The WWE stock has risen and fallen upwards of anywhere between 6 and 9% back and forth over the course of this week alone. But it's closer. Yeah, it's closer to its high than its low as far as how that's going.
Think, wasn't the to sign up for that was relatively inexpensive, wasn't it?
Oh, the WWE Network?
Yeah.
No? Shameless. No, it is. It's just $9.99 a month. They shamelessly plugged that on WWE programming ad nauseum, even having tutorials as to how to download the app even though probably about 95% of the audience is familiar enough with a smartphone that they know how to download an app, but they still kind of pander to you like
to people like me who don't.
Well, I from what I've seen of you here at WBCB, I'd like to think that your mental acumen is enough that you know how to download an app. And even if it isn't, then you can lie to the audience. It's okay.
Right. That's our story, and we'll stick to it.
Exactly. Oh, goodness.
Well, just listening to the opening of the show, I mean, there's more non-wrestling related news going on than...
Yeah, I know. All the news has been happening outside the ring and outside the ring and in the courtroom and behind bars, it seems like.
Well,
yeah, a cage match of a different sort, as it were.
As I told you, a friend of mine years ago said about wrestling, he said, this is a man's soap opera. So I guess soap operas, you have to have some intrigue behind the scenes, and you certainly have more than enough right now.
Well, I think now with the advent of social media, the internet, I mean, these are things that you didn't have when you were watching the NWA and WCW back in the 80s. I'm going into your wheelhouse here. Yeah, right. I'm trying to throw whatever bone I can here.
Now, what surprised you most of this stuff you reported? Which of these surprised you the most?
Well, I think I'm going to get into this right now just because it's probably the most shocking and disturbing of the stories. I mean, gosh, I of course I had a drop for it and I forgot to bring it up, so I'm going to ramble here until I can find it quickly, and if I can't, then to hell with it.
Are you referring to the murder charges from 1983?
No. This is something
only, as you said, the rumors were there forever, but to think 32 years later, I guess tip a cap to the investigators who never gave up on it.
Yeah, I mean, because the case was never closed. It was just kind of left hanging there. They could have
made it the cold case and just put it aside.
They could have, yeah. I mean, it just had dust collecting on it, but it was never completely shut, and somebody opened it up and did some more research, and now, goodness. But I think as far as shock factor, this next story, well, to use a line that I used last week on the show here, it's like 90% hysterical and 10% creepy. Yeah, that's right. Your headphones are on. I just realized that. It's like 90% hysterical and 10% creepy. A man who was shot at the WWE Performance Center this past Monday. Armando Montalvo. He was shot by a sheriff's deputy at the WWE Performance Center down in Orlando, Florida on Monday, according to TMZ. WWE issuing a statement regarding the incident saying, quote, unfortunately, a deranged individual with no WWE affiliation who had a court order prohibiting him from being on WWE property was involved in an incident with an Orange County Sheriff's deputy in the parking lot of the WWE Performance Center. We defer to the Orange County Sheriff's Department for further comment and information. So, yes, the Orange County Sheriff stated that Montalvo had entered the WWE facility with a knife and had charged at a deputy who fired a shot. Now, the sheriff stated that Montalvo was obsessed with one of the female wrestlers and that this was the third time that police had encountered him down at the Performance Center in Florida. According to TMZ, he had allegedly shown up in a wrestling outfit, had banged on the windows of the facility, and had threatened to kick everyone's ass because they wouldn't hire him.
Jeez.
Talk about a bad way to try to get your foot in the door.
Yeah, there you go. That's right.
As if that wasn't bad enough, it gets weirder. WWE had filed that restraining order against Montalvo earlier in August after he had spread his feces and urine on the building.
Oh,
I kid you not.
Oh, man. This guy was looking to make friends.
Wow. You know, I mean, you'd think taking your personal body waste and tossing it around like that would repel more people than it would bring in, though. I mean, he even posted a video of him mixing the human waste along with reduced fat milk in a bucket, I guess, to prepare it for, I don't know. There's
that's
definitely something wrong with this guy.
That's not a good visual you just painted.
I know. This is one of those times where I'm ashamed that I'm good at painting a picture with words.
That's right. Boy, everybody is they're eating their lunch now, and they're looking and going, why did he do that to me? Cars are pulling off the road right now. Cars are pulling off the road, and the doors are opening, and these people.
Yeah, they're retching. Oh goodness! I know. I said there's nothing but bad news here. I mean, that's probably the weirdest of the stories. Also, man, I don't even know where to go next after that. I should probably go. I'll go to. I'm sure somebody's got something hilarious on the Facebook fan page based on that. Okay. Nope. Apparently not. But
now, again, as somebody who's a novice and haven't really followed this very much, obviously over the years, as opposed to, as you referenced, many decades ago, what's next? What is going on that will help to divert the attention away from this as far as fans and maybe get some good PR?
I would think that WWE focusing on the product, and I mean, they've done a lot to distance themselves from these various issues. As I'd mentioned, they took down Snuka's image from the WWE website. They removed him, at least temporarily, from the WWE Hall of Fame listing.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they did the same thing with Hogan once all of the racial stuff came out.
Now, they didn't remove them from the Hall of Fame. Did they? Or they just took their names?
They've taken their names and images off of the Hall of Fame section, so I think they're still in. They're just not being acknowledged.
Because remember when, of a different sport, when O.J. Simpson was involved
with everything back in '94,
There was talk about removing him from the Hall of Fame, which they said his feats on the field had nothing to do with that. He's already been elected. So.
Exactly. And there's a little bit of that mindset that the persona of Hulk Hogan and the individual of Terry Bollea, they're two different entities in a sense, and to kind of take the actions of one and blame the other for it. I mean, it's this is going to be a really obscure reference, but it's kind of like blaming Clark Kent for when Superman in the Superman 3 movie from '83 started doing all those evil things like straightening the Leaning Tower of Pisa and blowing out the Olympic torch. I don't know if you've seen the movie or listened. You've seen it. Yes. I know. Christopher
Not the
Reeve
one
was awesome.
most memorable of movies, though. 3, really, right?
No, but it's a guilty pleasure of mine. Yeah. I have to admit that. It's one of those. I know that it's less than stellar, but I still enjoy it. If for no other reason, I know I'm getting off on a complete tangent.
I took you off. Subject,
this show it goes off the rails all the time in that regard. But the auto yard scene from that movie, it just look up Superman 3 and Auto Yard and just. Christopher Reeve was so brilliant in that.
Well, if you grew up a Superman fan,
which I most certainly did.
He was my favorite superhero, so I usually watch anything that has to do with it, whether it's the old George Reeves reruns or watching Smallville, which I never missed an episode of that through its whole run, and now you have the Supergirl news show possibly, or it is coming, but I don't know if I will do that one yet, but I watch Gotham, so it's kind of the Batman tie-in too.
There you go. Yeah, anyway. There's a lot of things in the comic pot as
but
I know. Now,
as we trying to get back.
I know. Try to get back here. Well, you know what? One way to do that. We have a little bit more business to take care of. We're here for probably another 10 minutes or so before we take things out to Montclair High School. Sean Lerman with the call in the Chamonix and Montclair. So we'll get into that. Let me take care of a little bit of business here, and I'll come back, talk about the domestic battery and false imprisonment charges, as if we haven't had enough to deal with and talk about in that regard.
Well, we tried to talk a little real wrestling. But.
And, yes, and current WWE World Heavyweight Champion Seth Rollins, his girlfriend, who is a developmental talent in WWE, she was fired by WWE, and the reasoning behind it, you just can't help but laugh and shake your head. I've got that story coming up as well. This is thanks again, Ted, for coming on here. Ted Efaw. He'll be sports pending. He'll be in with some country music after the football game, before the Phillies game. There'll probably be, give or take, about a 45-minute window Yeah.
More time than we thought, right?
I mean, give or take. Yeah, it could be a little bit less, could be a little bit more, depending on how things go. But, yeah, so you'll more than likely be able to sneak some country music in there, and then we've got Phillies baseball starting at 3:30.
Let's hope the Phils get back on track, too.
Yeah,
That's right. But at any rate.
I was going to say, I think I've got a better chance of getting more on track with this show.
There you go.
We'll see, though. This is Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com.
Pro Wrestling Weekly presents Today in Wrestling History, September 5. On this date in 1990, the NWA held its Clash of the Champions 12 Supercard. In the main event, Sting pinned the Black Scorpion to retain the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. On this date in 1991, WCW held its Clash of the Champions 16 Supercard. In the main event, Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko defeated Bill Kazmaier and Rick Steiner to win the vacant WCW World Tag Team Championship. On this date in 2005, WWE Monday Night Raw aired live from Nashville, Tennessee. In the main event, Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch defeated Rosie and the Hurricane in a tag team match. On this date in 2010, TNA held its No Surrender pay-per-view. In the main event, Mr. Anderson pinned D'Angelo Dinero. This has been Today in Wrestling History, September 5.
Welcome back to Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com. Fearon Derry here with you, talking wrestling. Ted Efaw maneuvering and making his way around the building, getting ready for a litany of things here this afternoon. Hopefully I'm not detracting him too much.
No.
Oh, goodness. All right, I got the word from Sean Lerman. We have the green light to go to 12:50, so instead of having about 4.5 minutes, we have 9.5 minutes. That's good, because there's quite a few things to still have a chat about, including, and usually this is around the time I do it anyway, when I have the full show, as opposed to a 10-minute cut, slice, whatever you want to call it. Got to tell you about my favorite beer spot, the Broken Goblet Brewery, 1500 Grundy's Lane in Bristol. Broken Goblet Brewing, breaking your perspective on how you experience craft beer, because broken can be beautiful. If you haven't gotten your tickets yet for the Broken Goblet's Hoppy Halloween 2 Beer Fest on October 24th, what are you waiting for? You want to get them soon, that's for sure. For just $25, you'll be able to sample beer and other libations from the Broken Goblet and at least 16 other Bucks County and Philadelphia-based breweries. How about that? Open Thursday through Sundays. For the summer, it's always a good time at the Broken Goblet Brewery. It's 1500 Grundy's Lane in Bristol, PA. Check them out on the web at brokengoblet.com. Broken Goblet Brewing, the semi-official brewery of Pro Wrestling Weekly. And on a completely other note, their food as well. I know I gush over their various beers and whatnot, but their food, especially their hot dogs, they kind of take a broken twist on what would otherwise be standard hot dogs. To give you a couple...
I was going to say, give us an example.
Well, I'll give you the more palatable example, because the one that I gush about the most is the one that most people cringe at.
Okay.
More so, but their John McClane hot dog. It's a hot dog with cheddar cheese, bacon, and sriracha sauce.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's for a little bit of kick. If you want something a little bit sweeter, this will more than likely, and by more than likely I mean definitely, weird you out. It's their Uncle Paul hot dog. It is a hot dog with peanut butter and jelly.
Oh, jeez.
And if you want to go all the way with it, you can also get it. It's a hot dog with peanut butter, jelly, marshmallow fluff, and bacon.
Wow.
I know. Most people, they hear that, and they immediately make that grimace, cringe-type face.
Well, it just doesn't think you would think that a hot dog mixing with peanut butter and jelly alone would not delight the palate, but
it does. It's that mix of sweetness and saltiness that initially, as I said, you're weirded out thinking about it. And one time after a couple of libations, I thought, what the hell? I'll give this a try. And I was like, this is amazing.
But you don't have to have the libations to enjoy it, though.
Oh, you do not. No. I mean, if anything, the libations just give you the courage to give it the try. Exactly.
The inhibitions are down. We'll try anything.
Yes. Well, I don't know about anything, but
anything on the
anything on the menu there. I mean, everything on the menu is great, so that's you can't really go wrong with it there. It's just a lot of people see it and they get weirded out. Oh gosh, John from Philly chiming in on the Facebook fan page. At what point do the bad storylines in the ring and the bad storylines out of the ring begin to blur? Will the Hulk Hogan apology tour get him back in the WWE? I'm thinking yes, but not for a while. Maybe not until after WrestleMania 32. I'm thinking at least 6 more months of just apologizing and letting time heal the wound and seeing where the litigation process is with this whole Gawker Media, Hulk Hogan sex tape thing.
Now, do you think, I mean, there has to be a point where you stop apologizing and then just disappear for a while? Don't you think?
Well,
or
he's kind of done that, and only this week has he started to make the apology rounds. He disappeared first, and now he's putting himself out there. I mean, that's what the Good Morning America interview was him getting himself out there after spending the better part of a month to 6 weeks eating that humble pie.
But the point is, once he's done making the rounds of apologies, I would think he would have to disappear a while before they bring him back. They're not going to just bring him back.
They're not just going to bring him back. No, you're right. There's going to be a grace period, and I think a lot of that will be dedicated toward letting the legal process play itself out. And if things go in his favor, if Gawker owes a significant sum of money and Hulk Hogan is viewed in the jury's eyes, I guess, as the victim for having a moment of privacy being made very, 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 very public without his knowledge or consent, then yes, there'll be a lot of sympathy towards Hulk Hogan, and people will, I think, be able to move past his actions and words in that video from a few years ago.
Now, do you think that because America in general is a very forgiving country, that will help? Do you think are wrestling fans more loyal than, I mean, I'm thinking out loud here, but think of Michael Vick, who, was just scorned, but the local, once he's on your team, we love him. And then the PR and the genuine attempt to show that he was truly sorry. A lot of people have kind of forgotten about that now. Will the wrestling fandom be a little more forgiving than maybe everyone else, which would be important business-wise?
I'd like to think so. Time heals a lot of wounds. A lot of people go to Bret Hart and Vince McMahon with the Montreal Screwjob from 1997, and they finally reconciled after 13 years. Mm-hmm. So it's just a matter of time. The only instance where I can say that it's, I don't want to say impossible, but highly unlikely, I think, is WWE getting over the actions of Chris Benoit from 2007, the double murder-suicide. Mm-hmm. I think that that hit the wrestling industry really hard, mm-hmm. and I don't think that's something that will ever recover. Mm-hmm. Or if it does, it will be a very, very long time, maybe a generation. I don't think you'll ever see him in the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. That's just my personal opinion. I mean, I respected what he did as a wrestler, and it's been scientifically shown that what he did in the ring was a contributing factor to what he did in the final moments of his life. And I know this is something wrestling fans have been talking about this for the better part of 8 years now.
Since it's similar to football. Is that the type where head injuries? Is that what you're referring?
Yeah, CTE. I mean, there have been a lot of after Benoit passed, his brain was donated to. I forget the name of the organization, but they analyze pro athletes' brains based on head trauma. It's actually run by former wrestler Chris Nowinski, who his career was cut short due to concussions a few years ago. And I mean, he's a Harvard graduate, insanely smart, and he's dedicating his work to seeing what causes all of these brain trauma, I mean, not just in wrestling, but in football and other sports, and seeing what can be done to prevent or minimize them. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're doing fantastic work with the analyzing the CTE and everything like that.
Yeah, I was just thinking, if you think of high school or professional or collegiate, they wear some sort of headgear.
Yeah, you don't really see that as much. Actually, you don't really see it at all in professional wrestling.
Right,
Last thing
that's
I can
what I
think
mean,
of
but
is
I'm thinking, would they-
Rick Steiner with his traditional, like, scholastic wrestling headgear.
Well, that's what I'm wondering if would that be acceptable? I mean, even in baseball, you only have one player in baseball who wears that pitcher that will wear the helmet on the mound, and I forgot his name right now, but he's with the Mets. A lot of guys are resistant because it doesn't look macho. They look bad with the helmet on, and I'm wondering.
I know,
with wrestling,
masculinity versus safety. I mean, that's
right.
been an
I mean,
issue in
that's what
pro
I'm saying.
sports
Even
for
if
years.
they recommended that, do you think if that was recommended that wrestlers would be willing to do so, or would it take somebody, a big name figure who does it, that would make it almost acceptable for everyone else? As bizarre as that sounds, but
Well, I think they'd have to find a way to incorporate it into the imagery of whoever that wrestler is. Because, I mean, as much as it's competing in the ring and everything like that, that's me. I've learned this from going down to that wrestling school along with Lucas for that weekend camp. It's maybe about 30% of what they do. A lot of it is what they do on the microphone.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it is their personal branding. So is there a way to incorporate some sort of safety headgear into the branding of one individual, let alone 70, 80, 90, 100% of the roster?
Mm-hmm.
I doubt it.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's again, that'll all be discussed at some point down the road, but it's an interesting thing to think about. But I know you've
Yeah,
only got a little
definitely.
bit of
I know. I
time
got a
left
little bit of time here. Let me quick bring these stories up. I mean, this is some fascinating dialogue. I like this. It's fun, but it's serious at the same time. It's getting into some. I mean, obviously, these are all hard-hitting issues. So, I mean, we're really kind of digging below the surface on this. It's different from the norm. I feel kind of weird. I'm used to just cracking jokes and hitting drops and making fun of Lucas.
You just can't do it.
Some weeks you just can't do it. Yeah, exactly. I try to look for the bright side of things. I mean, it was that way earlier this year, earlier this summer with the passing of Dusty Rhodes, with the passing of Roddy Piper. You kind of have to find a way to move on, and these stories, they certainly aren't helping with that. TNA's Bram, Thomas Latimer. He was arrested around 6 o'clock Monday morning in Gulfport, Florida, on charges of domestic battery by strangulation and false imprisonment. I know, this stuff gets crazy. The Tampa Tribune reporting that police state Latimer was arguing with a woman believed to be his girlfriend when she went to her bedroom. Latimer allegedly followed her and closed the door and refused to let her leave. The story also states that he allegedly pushed the woman onto the bed and held her down by her neck. The story also notes that Latimer, quote, was being held in the Pinella County Jail without bond. TNA Executive Vice President of Television and Talent John Gaborik issued a statement regarding the arrest, saying that, quote, the charges against Thomas Latimer are serious and he is immediately and indefinitely suspended from any future TNA-sanctioned events, awaiting the outcome of the case. Now, some of you may know that Latimer is married to WWE wrestler Charlotte, Ric Flair's daughter. However, the two of them are no longer romantically involved, and Charlotte was not involved in the incident that led to Latimer's arrest. And really quickly, because I know I'm looking at the clock too, it's amazing how I can just ramble, and next thing you know, I think I have a lot of time, but none at all. I'm sure if worst case scenario, I'll get a text from Sean saying, get over to me now, doggone it. What are you doing? You're taking up my time here. Seth Rollins' girlfriend, Zahara Schreiber, she was released due to inappropriate and offensive remarks. You might remember her earlier this year as part of Seth Rollins' unintended social media reveal, for lack of a better term, and I'll just leave it at that because that's a longer story than I want to get into. TMZ reporting that Schreiber's firing was due to pro-Nazi artwork posted on her Instagram account in 2012. The photos included a My Little Pony character dressed as Adolf Hitler.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. I can't make this stuff up. She said when she posted the pics, quote, I like history, ha. The swastika means prosperity and luck. It was around way before Hitler turned it to an icon.
Oh, geez.
Well, WWE is not buying it, and now because of that, she's not even wished the best in her future endeavors. All right, I've got negative 2 minutes left. Thankfully, there's only one
Birthdays!
to throw into the mix here. On this date in 1972, Shane Sewell was born. The former TNA wrestler and referee turns 43 today. Happy birthday, Shane Sewell. All right, that's going to do it for me. We're going to take it over to Sean Lerman now for high school football here on 1490 WBCB. I'll be back next week. I don't think I'm preempted next week. I'll have to look at the schedule. I know there are some preemptions and shortenings and all that coming on. But for now, we're 7 minutes away from, you know what? We'll have Nazi hit it early. We're 7 minutes away from
1 o'clock and all's well.
Serving you better than ever before. This is 1490 WBCB Levittown.